YouTube. So I'm here to talk about the books I've read so far in May. I'm trying to keep myself accountable to talk about each book that I read because I've been really bad with that and just talking about like the highlights, like my favorite books of the month. And so I want to include all the books for May. And so I'm going to make a point to do weekly wrap ups. So the first book I've read this month is The Singing Tree by Kate Sarity. And this is a Newbery Honor book. I found this at a little free library, and even though I've passed this year, I think this came out in 39, I'm in like the mid 40s right now, so I went back and read this one because I'm only reading the books that are available at my library or on Hoopla, and this just wasn't one of them. So when I thought it was, okay, I'm gonna include this one. I can't not since I found it at a free library. This is about a family who get caught up in World War One. And so, like the father has to go away, and like so their like normal day-to-day life gets disrupted. And they had a really cute ending. I don't want to give anything away if you ever want to read this, but I really like the ending of it. And each chapter has pictures. Let's see if I can find some here, and it has really pretty illustrations. And each of the beginning of the chapter has like a little symbol there with some artwork beside it. And so yeah, like the father was really nice, and it's kind of like a coming of age for the young people in the family who have to grow up really fast with the war going on. And so yeah, I really like this one. I'm glad I was able to find it and add it to my check it off on the Newbery list. And then going to the digital books that I finished, Civil War Land in Bad Decline by George Saunders. This is the first book that he wrote. I've read, I think, everything now except Lincoln in the Bardo, which I tried like 2 or 3 times and I just haven't made my way through it. And something with a fox in the title, but all his other short story collections I've read. And so this one I felt like you really could tell that it was the first one in the first book that he wrote. Just because I don't know the atmosphere and like the mood of each story, they all seem each story as like a very disgruntled person, or I don't know, it doesn't feel like there's not much hope in it, or and each of them, I don't know, it doesn't end very positively for each one of them. Whereas like I think his later works, it's like a mix of like moods and emotions where it's not all hopeless and like really down and out kind of people. Because really that is that all is in his later books, but it has a humor to it. Whereas this, it didn't read as funny. I'm probably he meant for these to be funny. And maybe just me not picking it up on it. I'm not sure, but I did enjoy it. But I have seen, at least from my experience, improvement in his later works, which I think is like pretty typical of authors. And it has a really like I don't know funny cover here with the upside down horse, but. This is one of the books in the one of the short stories in the collection. I don't know, it's really hard to like kind of review a short story collection because each of them is like its own story. But it does have a novella at the end, which was like around like 100 pages or so. But there's all sorts of like settings here, and I think he's really good like dystopian kind of tales. Like there's the Civil War Land in Bad Decline is about a kind of like amusement park in a way, but each of the rides or like the reenacting characters, actors, they're all a bit I don't know all over the place. Like the actors are like some of them are drunk, and the amusement park rides are just like falling apart and have to be splotches of paint everywhere. It's like the paint is like peeling off so you can see the paint underneath it, and it's like none of it's like operating correctly. So yeah, like I don't know, it's hard to describe all the stories. But if you're interested in kind of like a different way of telling short stories, then yeah, I would recommend this author if you haven't read him before. I then have Andrew Mayne's Black Coral. This is a thriller, and it's set in Florida. And I read the first one, I think back in February or March, and this is the second book of his. It recently came out. Again, I think February, March, this book just came out. And I really enjoyed it, same as like the first one. This is about a detective who's also a deep sea diver. And like she comes from a family of like treasure hunters and kind of people who don't always follow the rules, even though she herself is, trying to be like, she's a detective herself. She's working with the police force, so she is trying to, be good and follow that. But so she's diving and looking at a car in the water, and she see, or the car is like, there's something in the water. Anyway, she goes through this pond, and while she's there, she sees this old van, and it looks, of course, it doesn't belong there, but she sees all sorts of things when she goes on these different dives. But she's, I don't know, it gives her like these like second thoughts about it, and so she has her group pull out the van, and come to find out there's 4 dead bodies in the van who've been there a very long time. So it's like basically 4 skeletons. And so she goes on this adventure of, going back, like I think like 20 or 30 years, to when this accident first took place. And it's kind of like a cold case, solving a cold case. And so yeah, I really enjoyed this series. And then I have Winona's Pony Cart by Maud Hart Lovelace. And as I mentioned, my last wrap up, I had read Carney's House Party, I think. So this was like, because it was a bind up, and this was another one in that collection. And this is kind of like a companion to the Betsy Tacy series. And so Winona is a character in that series. And so she is very well off. She comes from a family who, her father is like the head journalist. He runs a newspaper in the town. And so this is about her birthday party, and so she asks for all sorts of things that I'm sure like Betsy, Tacy, and Tib might not have gotten. Like she asked for a pony, and she asked for like a newspaper like printing machine, and a couple of other things. Those were like fancy dress, and but despite that, she's not like a snooty a character like you can see in children's books, but so this is all about her wanting a pony, and then she gets it, and it's a little quick, cute story about the town, and just makes me want to read more books. There's only one other book, I think Emily of the Deep Valley, or Emily of the Valley, something like that, is the only other book I have left to read by her. So it's a little bit sad, but at least I can really read the Betsy Tacy series, and I will hunt out and see if there's any other books that this author has written. But it's just interesting to read, like when I was reading the Betsy Tacy series, and this one, Betsy is constantly referring to wanting to write stories. She's constantly thinking about stories. So when she goes to the birthday party here, and she sees that printing press that Winona wanted, she's like, "Oh, all the stories I could write! I could start my own newspaper." Like I love how she got her dream that she's wanted forever. So it was just really nice books to read. And then I have Savannah Blues by Mary Kay Andrews. And this is about a woman who, she recently got divorced. She found out her husband was cheating on her for quite a bit of time, and so she gets kicked out of this townhouse that she herself has put like sweat and blood into it to renovate it, because along with like liking to fix up houses, and not interior decorating per se, but for sure like restructuring things, and like really has an eye for different knickknacks and things like that. She is, has always wanted to start her own like antique store. And so she's like a picker. She goes to these different estate sales and antique stores and junk stores looking for things that are actually worth way more than what they're selling for. And so then she can resell them, and has connections to like museums and things like that. And so along with that, it's kind of like there's 2 different side stories there. 2 different stories in this. It's her journey of, coming out of this marriage, being independent, creating her own career now that she's not underneath this guy who providing money and a house for her. Now she has to be on her own, but she finally actually followed the dream that's always been in her mind. And there's a mystery, because on an estate sale that she goes through, this old like Savannah plantation, she just goes to a closet to go to the bathroom and opens up the closet door, and a dead body falls out. So there's a whole story there as well, and that she gets wrapped up in, like, did she murder this this person, and so on, because she has some connections to the victim. So yeah, this is like I don't know, it's one of her earlier books, Mary Kay Andrews. I've read quite a few of hers, and she's another like author that I read quite a bit in the summer. And so yeah, this was on my mind, not on my mind to read, but I was just like scanning through the books my library had. But this I think about early 2000s. So this is the first book she wrote under the Mary Kay Andrews name, because I think it's like I think she wrote doing like her own name before that, like more mystery books than that. I was reading about it, and she changed her author name to Mary Kay Andrews, when she started writing books set in like the Savannah, Georgia, maybe not Savannah, but in the Georgia like southern region compared to before. So yeah, I could kind of tell it was one of her earlier books because I don't know, it wasn't as funny. It did have some humor in it. I really like the duo that she had with her best friend in here, but it was a bit long because I think it's like 500 or so pages, and it dragged a bit. But again, I really did enjoy it, and it was just a light read to read. Then I have A House Full of Females, Plural Marriage and Women's Rights in Early Mormonism, 1835 to 1870, and this was written by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. And this is a book just about, again, talking about the women from like the early settling time back when like the area was in, going to Utah, and their like whole, I don't know, like their perspective of plural marriage, having sister wives, like the controversy and the conflict that constantly is in their daily present in their daily lives, having to share a husband, and what they think of this kind of like evolving religion. How it was starting out to what it became, and like it didn't really talk about what it's like now. It for sure focused on that historical time, but you're just reading about like the trials that they went through. I don't know. I couldn't have done any of this. It was very interesting to read. I haven't read many books on the Mormon religion, but I got a book recently when I was looking at a free library, and so that's focusing on like the broad spectrum like history. But this one focuses on just the females. Women. I don't know why I kept saying females because it's like in the title here. But yeah, if you're interested in the Mormon religion or like history, then this is like a really fascinating book to read. And so those are all the books. I had to check. These are all because I'm in the middle of so many books. I'm like, did I finish any more? Okay, no. These are all the books I've read so far in May. Let me know if you've read any of these, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.